Hello, this is Rumor, and today I am in a real mood. But no, seriously, I've got my mermaid book here. I am wearing my mermaid charm. I got a little oyster shell here. Technically, this looks more like a clam shell, but it has produced a pearl nonetheless. So anyways, let's not get technical when it comes to jewelry, all right? But truly, I am feeling in this mood this summer. I mentioned in a previous video that I had gotten the Usborne illustrated stories of Arthurian tales, and as I was looking that up, because I was interested in researching Arthurian legend, I stumbled upon this little book, and I love mermaids. I have always loved mermaids. I was properly obsessed with the Disney animated film of The Little Mermaid when I was but a young adolescent. Loved Ariel. She was and continues to be my Disney princess. However, problematic the princesses are considered to be these days, but she's my princess and I'm sticking with it. And it was honestly just a few years ago, well, maybe more than that. I was trying to remember, maybe 2015. So I would have been on the cusp of turning 40, and I accompanied my parents to Disney World in Orlando, as any on the cusp of turning 40 child does. But I remember that was my first opportunity at the Magic Kingdom to ride the new Little Mermaid ride, or it was new at the time. And I was so excited because finally Little Mermaid represented at the parks. But then on this ride, having this experience, I did not expect it, folks, but I cried. Like, maybe I didn't weep, but real tears. And I might have even, like, you know, in the dimness of the ride, in the privacy of my seashell, I felt I could perhaps even screw my face in an ugly cry. It was very emotional for me. I really loved it. So anyways, mermaids continue to be dear to me, especially that version of one. But why don't I just cut to the chase here? I thought it would just be fun, and maybe I should have done this to begin with, but I will zoom out just a little bit. There we go. I thought that maybe I could just do a little bibliomancy, cartomancy mashup here and do a little reading based on that, and do this as a reading for the collective, not just me personally. I'm sure I'll have personal takeaway, but it's for all of us. So I will introduce the decks as I use them. Let's pick a story, shall we? And have a little read aloud. So I really am just going to kind of randomly flip through the pages here. Whatever story I land in the middle of, I'm not going just purely off what's on that page as far as the bibliomancy goes. I will relate the whole tale. Probably one that I've not read yet myself, because I've only read a couple of them in here. But anyway. Okay, I've landed on this one. Oh. And really, I see that this ribbon was here, but I didn't open it to the page that was marked. I opened it to another page. So just saying that as FYI, I didn't like plant this here because I really wanted to do this story all along. I really was just trying to pick at random, but anyways, as it says here, this old folk tale comes from the village of Zennor in Cornwall, at the very southern tip of England. Okay, I love Cornwall. I have been there a few times. I have not been to this particular village, and I have not even heard of it, actually. Hence, I didn't know how to pronounce it. Zennor, I don't know. But, oh, I love Cornwall so much. So I actually am excited to read this tale. So the Mermaid of Zennor, the bells chimed out, as people crammed into the church of Saint Senara in Zenar. I am surely mispronouncing things left and right. We'll just flow with it, swim with it like a mermaid, eh? So just as they were settling into their seats, a mysterious woman entered the church. No one had ever seen her before. The village was a quiet one, perched on a cliff, high above the sea, and quite remote from anywhere else in Cornwall. Not many new people came to the village, so this stranger caused quite a stir. Her eyes were an unusual deep blue that glistened like the sea, and her hair fell down to her waist, like rivers of shining gold over her flowing blue dress. Quietly, she took a seat right at the back of the church, but that did not stop heads turning and voices whispering, "Who is she? Where has she come from?" No one seemed to know. Young Matthew Truella? Or Truella? Ugh. Telling you, I suck at pronouncing things. But anyway, Matthew here was the best singer in the church choir. When the organ began to play, Matthew stood up confidently to sing his solo, and the whole church hushed. His voice was rich, deep, and spellbinding. As he sang, he noticed the stranger's eyes fixing on him, and he thought he saw her smile warmly. At the chorus, everyone stood up to join in. Matthew could hear the stranger's voice clearly above the others. It ran out like silver bells, creating a perfect harmony with his own. His heart leaped at the beautiful sound their voices made together. At the end of the service, the stranger came over to Matthew. "Hello," she said in a soft voice. "What's your name?" "Matthew," he stammered. "My name is..." Jesus, okay. "We're going to go with Morverin," she told him. "You have the finest voice I have ever heard." Matthew blushed, but before he could find the words to reply, Morverin had disappeared into the crowd and out of the church. She was gone. All week, Matthew could not stop thinking about Morverin. He prayed she would come to church the next week. He longed to sing with her some more. The following Sunday, the church was packed more than ever. Matthew looked carefully along each row, but he couldn't see Morverin anywhere. Then, just before the service was about to begin, in she swept and took the same place, right at the back of the church. Again, she gazed admiringly at Matthew as he sang, and her own lovely voice blended with his. From that day on, Morverin came to church every Sunday, always arriving seconds before the service was about to start. And afterwards, before anyone could pin her down and find out who she was, she slipped away like quicksilver. Matthew became determined to find out more about this mysterious woman with the enchanting singing voice. He thought carefully about what he could do. Then he remembered that there was a small door just behind the choir, which came out on the same side of the church as the main entrance. The next week, as soon as he saw Morverin stand up to leave, he was quick. He bolted from his seat and out through the small side door. As Matthew emerged into the bright sunlight, there she was, only a few steps ahead of him, hurrying across the churchyard. Matthew ran to catch up with her, but Morverin had already disappeared down a narrow street. Matthew turned into that street too, only in time to see a swish of her blue dress disappear around the corner. And so here is that image up closer. Oh, that does look like the darling architecture to be had out there. Matthew kept following as Morverin wound her way through the village, then away across the fields and out of sight completely. "I've lost her," he thought sadly, but then he caught another glimpse of the same dazzling blue moving along a wooded path going down to Pendor Cove. The light was glinting off her dress, reminding him of the way it danced off the ripples on the sea. Matthew ran even faster. Eventually, he came close enough to see her dress was dripping with water. The delicate pattern gleamed as brightly as a silvered fish darting beneath the surface of the sea. Morverin, please wait for me," he called in desperation, but again she was slipping away. She reached the rocks right at the edge of the water, and finally he caught up with her. Morverin turned to look at him with her deep blue eyes. "Matthew, I cannot stay on the land. I'm a mermaid." "What? She is? Oh my God, I didn't see that coming, did you?" "I belong in the sea. I heard your voice from the cove, and I had to come to the church to hear you sing and to see you for myself. But I can't stay any longer. I have to return to the sea." He looked again at her shimmering dress and saw that it was now a mermaid's tail made of beautiful gleaming scales. But still, he couldn't bear to leave her. "I'll come with you," he said. "Take me to your home under the sea." "You can't," Morvarin shook her head, but he could hear the regret in her voice. "Please," he began. "If you come with me," Morvarin interrupted, "you can never go back to the land." I don't know. Is it good to start a relationship on an ultimatum like that? It means leaving your life as a human behind. Do you understand? "I have to come with you," Matthew replied. Oh, Matthew, you barely know her. He had never felt more certain of anything in his life. So Morvarin took Matthew's hand firmly in her own and dived into the deep blue water, pulling him down with her. The people of Zennor never saw nor heard of Morvarin or Matthew again. His family was heartbroken. Everyone in the village helped search for him, but they could find no hint of where he had gone. Many years passed, and still people wondered what had become of them. Then one day, a tall sailing ship anchored just off Pendor Cove. The sailors were busy on deck when they heard the most beautiful voice calling to them from the waves. There's a picture of her taking him down. They looked overboard and were stunned to see a mermaid with long golden hair and deep blue eyes swim right up to the ship. The sailors had been on many voyages around the world and had heard countless tales of mermaids, but they had never seen one for themselves. And boy, I bet they were randy for this encounter. "Would you mind moving your anchor?" asked the mermaid politely. "It's resting on the door of my house on the seabed. My husband and children are inside, and I cannot get back to them." The sailors had heard enough on their travels to know it is wise always to respect the wishes of mermaids. I'm sure that's not what they wanted to hear, though, that she's married and with kids. They happily agreed and moved their anchor. The mermaid thanked them kindly and disappeared beneath the rolling waves. That evening, the sailors came on shore and told their story, ready to impress the locals in the village inn. "You'll never believe what happened at Pendor Cove today," said the captain, his voice booming around the inn. "A mermaid with long golden hair and deep blue eyes swam right up to the ship and asked us to move our anchor, sure as anything." He knew this sounded a far-fetched tale, but the people of Zennor listened carefully. The description seemed familiar. The mermaid sounded just like Morvarin, the mysterious woman who used to come to church and then disappeared with Matthew. "Go on," they said. "Then what happened?" "Well," oh, I'm realizing I gave that a more sarcastic inflection than I think was intended. I thought they were like, "Go on then, you're having a laugh." But I think they're actually like, "Go on," they said. "Then what happened?" "Well, she told us our anchor was resting on her door. She asked if we could move it as her husband and children were inside." Could her husband possibly be Matthew? They believed he must be. In memory of Morvarin and Matthew, the people of Zennor carved a mermaid on a bench in the church. It has been there for hundreds of years now. If you visit, you will be able to see it right at the back of the church, just where Morvarin used to sit. On calm summer nights, people say they can still hear the sweet, happy voices of Morvarin and Matthew floating across the sea at Pendor Cove. And here's a depiction for you to see for yourself. And I'm assuming that's the end. Yes. Okay. Well, again, apologies for my mispronunciations. I really have not heard of this village yet, and now I want to go, and I want to find the pew in the church that has the mermaid. And then hopefully the locals can teach me the proper pronunciations here. And I think regardless, it's just going to grate on your ears with my Midwest American accent. But I don't know about you, but when I got to this point, I was thinking she was like going to try to seduce them to bring someone down into the sea too, and that Matthew was long gone. And I guess as it is, we haven't seen him, right? I mean, she could say she's got a husband and kids down there, but I mean, do we know? But anyways, let's go back to this first page here and get our cards out next. I'm going to use this, speaking of anchor, to hold that down. Let's see here. I am so originally going to use the Mermaid tarot for this one. I've edged mine in green. I do love this deck. It is not one that I use often, but I always, at the very least, bring it out in the summertime. And speaking of the Little Mermaid, I mean, this is the deck that's going to give me those feels. I have other mermaid decks, other oceanic decks, but this definitely makes me feel right in the Disney movie. And so I was in the mood to bring it out for this reading. And the reading itself is quite simply just going to be a simple 3-card one, in which, on behalf of all of us, basically going to ask what lesson we're meant to take away from this story, just overall, and then to relate it more specifically to our lives. The second card will be how, like, what we can see from the surface. So going with this metaphor of the water, being on land or being on a ship, what have you, what is something that we're already like consciously aware of in relation to this lesson that needs to be learned and how that might apply to our lives? And then where do we need to dive deeper under that water to see perhaps what we can't so easily see at the surface, something that might be underlying this, something that we might be repressing and refusing to see, or just a factor we're not able to, or even if we are aware of this issue on the surface, it's just like deeper terrain we have not, or deeper waters we've feared to tread in up to this point. However we kind of want to look at that. So my charms are clacking against my camera stand, which is kind of annoying, sorry. All right. That is where I'm breaking this, but I am also going to rearrange a bit more here, just have a little bit more room. So, how does this story, The Mermaid of Zanor, teach us a lesson? What is the lesson we're meant to take away? So I have pulled the 8 of Pentacles. Oh, and the Pentacle suit in this deck features river mermaids, which I think is lovely. And I think there is a tale about a river mermaid in here from South America, I want to say. But isn't that lovely? There's a lot of detail in this picture, so I'll let you feast your eyes a moment here. But we see like the labors happening here, and there's some fairies in the mix and birds, the deer, and it looks like everyone, oh, toads, but it looks like everyone is pitching in and working hard. And this looks like a mermaid perhaps that has money to offer or some sort of currency for these labors. But we also traditionally know of the 8 of Pentacles that it relates to working at something and continually working at it until you've got it right. There's like a discipline that comes from it. So I guess how this can relate to our story here, I mean, we had Mavi who was taken by the mermaid Morvran and could not stop thinking about her. And so each time he saw her, he would persist. So, I mean, there is a persistence echoed in this card, how he did not want to let her go. And then when it came to this choice, which is pretty extreme, that if he goes with her into the water, he can never go back to the land. But he did seem to just keep like persisting this idea. And I don't know if she's to be believed that she has married him and raised a family with him just below the sea, at the great sacrifice he's made of the whole life that he had above the waters, then it does seem like they really worked at this and made something fruitful of it. So that could be our takeaway here, in just that that persistence, like seeing you want something, but not passively sitting back and waiting for it to just come to you. Matthew kind of couldn't do anything but wait for Morvran to show up at church again. Otherwise, he didn't really know where to find her. But then once he did see her again, he persisted and he didn't give up thinking about her and trying to find her. And then that would not be an easy life that he's undertaking and going under the sea with her, but he's deeming it worth it. And so there probably was a lot of effort that went into learning the ways of mer society, or just that kind of lifestyle, even if it's just isolated with her. Who knows what their life looks like under there. But it was something clearly he was willing to work at. And she did not end up being one of those mermaids seemingly that just seduces with her lovely voice. It doesn't seem like, at least this version of the story, I don't know the original tales or like older versions of it. The ones from what I've read in this book so far, they definitely do seem to sugarcoat a little bit. So I don't know if like the original story is meant to be that positive of like, oh, happy ending, they got married, or if she really is trying to lure another sailor down with her. But if we're to be believed, she's not one of those like sirens of the sea that just has ill will toward mankind and ill intentions of dragging them into the deeps. So anyway, this is our takeaway from this story then. And I'm just getting like just that sense of like persistent effort. Like if you really want something, you've got to work at it. So then what we were able to see on the surface as to how this lesson is currently applying to our lives. Oh, and it's my little mermaid card. 7 of Cups. All right, well, maybe we've got an eye on the prize sort of situation going on, and these are all our fancies. These are all the things that we're kind of tempted with, or these daydreams that we have. But have we put the effort into it? And so maybe that's something that we're kind of realizing already. We have these like hopes and dreams, these wishes of fulfillment, pleasure, but have we done anything realistically to achieve them? Have we, or just if it's the one thing, whatever goblet, whatever chalice you might seize here that's been collected and placed in this grotto, like, have we made an effort to even make up our minds what it is that we want? And then have we thought through like the actual steps that we have to take to achieve that, to earn it? That's what I would get there. And it seems like this is something we are already aware of. And so perhaps there's like a narrowing down, a narrowing of the focus that we need in the first place. And then we've got to think through some like realistic, actionable steps of getting to that. We can't just go and have this like fanciful grotto and life in the sea without knowing that it's going to take work. There's going to be effort that goes into that. So then what might be below the surface, like where we need to dive deeper with this situation? And I realize I am speaking generally. 7 of Swords. I just pulled this one for myself recently in a birthday decan reading that I did for myself in a previous video, the same one where I had shared the illustrated tales of King Arthur. And in that video, I related how I often see, I mean, I know that Seven of Swords can relate to like a betrayal, deception, and I'm always quick to want to internalize that. Like if I don't readily perceive a way in which like it's a situation involving someone else and how they might be betraying me, I often will see it in terms of myself, like maybe betraying myself and being a little deceptive with the situation. Like, am I deceiving myself here? And am I trying to get something without like putting that work in? Am I trying to like find an easier way out? So now we see these mermaids of the Arctic, whereas we have the ones of the river. This is one that seems of the ocean. And perhaps like a warmer ocean, I don't know. But these are up where there is actual like snow and ice, and they have come across this trunk that's broken open and these swords are spilling out. And so they're kind of investigating them. Maybe they're evaluating if there's use for that. And they're not the ones that brought the swords here. They're not the ones that forged them in the first place. They're just kind of stumbling upon this and able to take them and swim with them if they've got use for it. So that was kind of like a nice falling in their lap situation. And even knowing it doesn't belong to them, they might just make off with it. So it looks like they're just still kind of like thinking about it. But it's interesting just having the 7 and the 7 here. In both these illustrations, I'm seeing this sense of like deliberation, like, you know, maybe the bounty here, these options here are kind of falling in. And now we're bringing it from the emotional realm of like, I want that, gimme, to, all right, well, let's weigh our options here, okay? Like we've got these things for the choosing, for the taking perhaps, but what are we going to take? And as they've got this sword in their hand, this is where I'm getting this idea from. It's like they're holding it and like, what can I really do with this? Like, I kind of want it. It's something free. It's easy to take here. But like, is it going to serve a purpose? Or am I just stealing for the sake of like having something for free, having something that came easily, but is there even any use to it? So it could be a good way then, as we're diving deeper in this situation, we're realizing, well, we're going to need more effort if we actually want to achieve the things that are sort of being dreamed about here. And determining if any of these are even realistic, or is this kind of pie in the sky? And I am mixing my metaphors because we are underwater here. But it's one of those things where, okay, can we make these dreams like, let's actually evaluate this in the logical realm now, like realistically, let's think through how this can play out. Because maybe there is something kind of falling into our lap and giving us this sense of, ooh, I have this for the taking. But we need to think it through. Like, do you need all of it, or can we narrow down what we need, or what we, even if it is just something that we want, but then maybe assessing like, okay, I want it, but like, do I really need it? And like, what really is being fulfilled by that? And if I want it just for the sake of wanting it, regardless, if I need it or just want it, what do I need to do in order to attain that? And I would think this card would be advising too, to not take the shortcut, even if it seems like something could be coming easily, possibly. I don't know, gauge, is it? Or is it something that could be a bit unattainable? Either way, is it something that's right for you? And what do you need to do to really, really have it, really feel like you've earned it, I guess, is that sense I keep coming back here. Like that hard work of the 8 of Pentacles leads to that satisfaction of the 9 of Pentacles, right? Where you just feel like really good. It's not just like, for me, when I see the 9, it's like not just like the abundance and prosperity you may be able to enjoy as a result of that. I also just see it as just being a good feeling of like a day's hard work, like well earned, like well done and well earned. Like I deserve to reap the benefits, where sometimes it doesn't always feel so good. Maybe it does feel like getting away with nothing, or getting away with something for nothing, having done nothing for it. That doesn't always come with the most satisfying of feelings. And so just bringing us into this colder environment here too. It does just sort of like take away the fantasy of the Seven of Cups and bring it into starker contrast as far as like, have I earned this? Is it something I want or need? Like, I don't know. There's kind of like a dilemma here, and think through if that is really something to pursue. We've got to have that sense of earning it, putting the work in. So anyways, I'm going to continue belaboring that point if I try to go further there. So now in this sea turtle bag, I have the Whispers of the Ocean Oracle. Let's get some advice from a creature of the deep beyond the mermaids. Now that we've heard what the mermaids have had to say, we'll go to the turtles, the fishies, the whales perhaps, the sea sponges, whatever creature down there might want to offer a little input as a message that can help reinforce this reading, punctuate it, elaborate on it. Thanks. Oh, 50, card 50, childlike devotion. You are a multi-talented, complex being. Embrace and love who you are. Isn't that nice? Childlike devotion. It almost seems like that's a devotion. I mean, the childlike aspect of it seems like something that could have you being like, pretty, shiny, I want that. But then the devotion I see playing into this idea of working at it because you are multi-talented and complex and you have the ability to do this. So that's just looking at this on the surface. But let's actually see what the guidebook says. Love includes both acceptance and respect. Love is the essence of the situation at hand. Making a shift into greater love of self will bring you more love from others. The truth is that you will receive more love when you are able to accept the love that is given to you. The love coming into your life may or may not be romantic love. Look for ways in which you can begin to connect with others. Allow your emotions to become evident. Be open to living more from your heart and experiencing your dreams. Consider the joy you felt as a young child around holidays or special occasions. Recall how you knew what you longed for. Of course, your aspirations have changed, but you can insistently pursue your ideals just as you did as a child. Simple joys and love are meant to be shared. The balance of giving and receiving will support the love you have in your being. Oh, the Christmas wrasse is a colorful member of reef and sand flat communities. They are named for Christmas because of their bright red and green coloring. They are active during the day, but a Christmas wrasse sighting is rare and special. Similarly, love can at times seem elusive. Begin realizing that there really is more to life by loving yourself, allowing yourself to be the amazing, beautiful being that you are. You are loved and loving. Wow, isn't that a love fest going on here in this description? But I think that is nice. I think going along with these themes, like I'm thinking of Mavi actually, like he wanted the love of, oh, what's her name? Morvarin? He wanted her love so badly, but when he's facing that choice of like, does he follow her and give up everything for her life? You know, that it kind of calls into question one's own, love of self. If you're making that kind of sacrifice for someone else, I mean, the love that he's receiving or desires from her must be worth it to him. And it does seem that if he was actually able to build this like life with her that has lasted, seemingly, then he seems like he was in a good place of, self-acceptance and being receptive to that potential for love that he saw. I mean, that's how it's relating to this story. But how it can relate to you here is, well, first of all, I like that it is bringing back in the cups energy here of these 7 cups and that idea of the joy you felt as a young child around holidays. I mean, that is kind of like a 7 of cups feeling. And feeling that you do deserve it, that you love yourself enough to have that, where I've been kind of chastising, like, you got to work for it, you got to work for it. But I mean, truly, like, there is that idea that, like, you don't want to just be taking from someone else, perhaps. If it is someone that you love and you want to have, the self-love and respect for yourself, you want to know that you've earned it, because it does talk about the giving and receiving in here as well, which is very much the spirit of reciprocity that I see here between those bringing this and she's bringing that to the table. So it's not just taking, there is that effort. So this just kind of brings it in then, I guess, elaborating on whatever this situation was relating to. Again, this is not necessarily having to do with like a relationship, and particularly a romantic relationship, but just that sense of like having enough self-love and respect for yourself to not cut those corners and just receive without giving in turn. I still think it bodes well to like have that sense of effort and work that you're being willing to put into, if this is in a relationship, especially. That's a harmony that has to be found there while you're still finding your inner fulfillment, but just kind of getting a realization of what that is for you, and you're not just being tempted by something, and something that could be giving that illusion of love, or will give you the illusion that if you have this or do this, you'll love yourself more, And so then that's where that cooler logic of the swords comes back in. But in any case, I'm just so repetitive today. But I've got this little baggie here with a couple of different things. I've got a pack of playing cards, mermaid themed ones that I turned into a Lenormand deck for myself. But what I'm grabbing at here are these seashell playing cards that I found, because this is my way of introducing Conchomancy into an oceanic reading without having to collect all of these different shells. But Conchomancy, I believe, is a casting method. If you had an array of shells, I assume it works like runes or charms, where you could like grab and scatter them and see how they fall. In this case, I went through following a book on Conchomancy. I wrote on here some of the meanings, and there were other cards in the deck that were not in this book as well. So after I'd kind of gotten the hang of how some meanings were derived by certain seashells, like maybe it was something in the name or the appearance that lent itself to that meaning, then I just took that further myself. And I couldn't tell you which ones I took from the book and which ones I came up with myself at this point. But I got as far as I could with the book, basically. And then just kind of intuited the rest on my own based on characteristics of that shell. But we're just going to pull a seashell from the beach here to add to this message that we're getting about that thing, that desire that we have, that thing that could potentially fulfill, kind of evaluate, like narrowing down to something and then evaluating where its place really is in our life. And that if we want that we make sure that we do our part to attain it and not just leave it all to someone else or directly take from them. The scallop, classic. Okay, I am not wearing my glasses. What does this say? Soul searching. Ooh, personal growth through challenge. Okay, I like that. I like that. I think this relates to, gosh, do I dare even say that it has something to do with like Arthurian legend or just like the Knights Templar or something? I feel like there's something about the scallop that symbolically is tied to the concept of a quest. And that's where that idea of like soul searching, but when you're on a quest and you're faced with challenge after challenge, I feel like that's the origin of this going back historically, but I'm not going to swear on it. But that seems very fitting. You know, we're looking for something fulfilling and don't need to be denying ourselves that. We need to like love ourselves and someone else enough to know that we can, you know, cater to these like childlike whimsies, these things that will really make us happy. But to be realistic about it and to make sure, you know, is it something meaningful? Is it something really contributing to our life? And again, it's not something that's going to run counter to another person, making sure that like what fulfills us and our means to that end isn't doing wrong by anyone else, that we're pulling our weight and everything. But that sense of challenge coming with these sevens until we can get to that like nice steadier place is the essence of the scallop. So there we go, just knowing it doesn't necessarily mean it comes easy. We might be feeling challenged with this now, but you know, when we know what it is that we want and we've determined, yes, it is worth this pursuit, then keep your eye on the prize and do what it takes, you know, to make you happy. But just know that it does take work, even if there's pleasure to be had as the end result. So also in this little bag, if I really wanted to layer things in, which I think I'm just going to call it a day here because this has already gotten on rather long, but I've shown this in a previous What's in the Bag video, but I wasn't able to really show these very well at the time. But I've got all of these like sea related charms here. So, you know, I've got like the ship, the lighthouse, the octopus, the hook that had gotten hooked on the octopus, the helm, a fish. Oh, and here's a mermaid fittingly, an anchor, a crab, fish bones, compass. So assorted seashells with their own little meanings. So there's a lot. Oh, a little tarot card. If I do a charm casting, just straight up charm casting, if I get a tarot charm that falls out, then I take that as my sign to pick a card from a deck. But at any rate, this is a case where I could easily just sort of like, oh, that one fell out, but, you know, just kind of pick a few of these, give it a shake and cast over the cards and see where it falls. And, well, gosh, now that I'm looking at it, I wasn't really going to do it, but I am seeing some things come up straight away. This squid that I have here, or this octopus, I relate to, well, with all its many legs, it can relate to like multitasking. Like if there's just kind of like a lot of things going on at once. You can also think of like an octopus's ink that can like obscure a situation. So I think that does relate to like this multiplicity of options perhaps that we have, and just trying to like narrow down and get through like that confusion and lack of focus that a Seven of Cups can bring and a octopus or squid's ink can bring to a situation to get a little bit more clarity. And then the helm has also fallen here, which I see as like, you know, seizing the helm. It's kind of like the Chariot card, if like by force of your will, like taking direction. So once we've kind of gotten some clarity there and then just seizing on a direction and really taking the helm and taking responsibility for going after it. And that's falling here with, oh, also we've got a starfish, which is just my oceanic equivalent of like the star card, of having hope, of having like a North Star to follow, some kind of like guidance that's out there for you, but also holding on to that hope that it can happen for you. And so what you're seeking isn't necessarily something that's unattainable. And here the little Oh, it's like my bracelet. It's like a mini version of it with the little, again, doesn't really look like an oyster shell to me, but it does have that pearl on the inside. But in my charm collection, this is actually similar to the scallop, meaning where it evokes this idea of the beautiful pearl emerging from something uncomfortable and challenging. Like when sand gets into the oyster's shell, that could be uncomfortable. That is like friction. That's grating, and that's not a pleasant feeling. But the result of all that friction at the end of the process, you get this shiny pearl. And so that's like beauty to be had from that. So I think it is all just reinforcing that idea of, okay, let's get some focus here, get through the murkiness, and then find a sense of direction, and then take ownership of it, take responsibility for it, and just knowing that there could be challenges in the way of that, but not losing that hope, and just being guided by the idea that this is in fact something like meaningful for you and the right course to follow. So that is my not so quickie reading, I guess. I really just wanted to have fun, as evidenced by this aqua aura quartz that I have here that I keep with my mermaid decks. It's just that whimsy and beauty and just kind of lightness and play that I take away from something like that. That's kind of what I wanted to get from this reading today. So I realized I was a rambling, repetitive mess here, but I hope that there was some sort of takeaway for you. You probably didn't need me to harp on it like 50 times in like 60 different ways here. You're probably like, yeah, I got the idea just from the cards. But thanks for letting me have some fun. That really was a big part of it, selfishly. I wanted to play. I wanted to swim in the sea with the mermaids and with the fishes, and see what pearls of wisdom could be taken from there. All right, let's got to bring in the cane and yank me off stage here before I really get obnoxious with this. But anyway, take it or leave it. With a grain of sea salt, if you will. Oh my God, I really do have to stop. But really, I hope that if there was something here that resonated for you, at the very least, hopefully you enjoyed hearing the story, looking at some pretty decks, seeing some pretty charms cast. Maybe it gives you ideas of how you could pursue a reading like this. I know I've gotten this idea from other people that I've seen here on TarotTube. One in particular I can think of right off the bat is Kelly Fitzgerald at The Truth and Story. I know she's definitely done stuff like this, where she might pull a fable, something with like a moral to the story, and use cards in conjunction with that. But there are several others who do it as well. And so this was me just having fun with a mermaid book that I just acquired. So thanks for letting me have that sense of play. Hopefully you did get something out of it too. And I will see you next time. Safe swimming meanwhile. Bye.